Mr. President.
Senator from Texas.
Mr. President, on Monday I was in El Paso, Texas, to talk with some of my constituents about the challenges that exist along our southwest border and how we can work together to address them. It is almost surreal to have people here in Washington, D.C. who've never been to the border and who perhaps only supposed knowledge they have is about novels they've read and from novels they've read or movies that they've seen. But having spent quite a bit of time along the border of Texas and Mexico myself, I can tell you it's a unique part of our country and certainly a unique part of my state. But the people you learn the most from are not from elected officials here that serve here in Washington, but rather from the Border Patrol, the sheriffs, the mayors, and countless others who live and work along the border, and they can provide, I think, the kind of expert knowledge that we need in order to address the challenges that exist. What they tell me and what I've learned is that there is no one-size-fits-all, because you can look at urban environments like El Paso, or you can go out to Big Bend that has thousands of foot high cliffs overlooking the Rio Grande. Obviously, a physical barrier in one place, like highly trafficked urban areas, is one thing. Putting it on the top of a 3,000-foot cliff is another. So no one-size-fits-all solution works. That's why it's important to listen to the stakeholders who live and work in these communities, and this is key, to actually do something with the feedback that they provide. What I've constantly been reminded of is that border security is a combination of three things: physical barriers in some hard-to-control locations, personnel, and technology. What's best for a high-traffic urban area, as I said, is probably much different from what's best along the Rio Grande or in the vast expanses between the ports of entry. Figuring out what we need and where we need it isn't a decision that ought to be directed or micromanaged from here in Washington. It's a decision that should come from the experts who know the threats and the challenges along every mile of the border. While I was in El Paso, we also talked, as we must, about the important role the border plays with our economy. Border communities in Texas depend on people and goods moving legally through our ports. For example, in Laredo, Texas alone, about 14,000 trucks pass each day through the ports of entry in Laredo, Texas, one of the largest, if not the largest, land-based port in the United States. So these goods need to move legally through our ports, and any disruption in legitimate international commerce can have a swift impact on these communities. For the people of El Paso, for example, border security means much more than just safety. It means economic security as well. Just as it's important to keep the bad actors out, it's equally important to promote efficient transit through our ports for legitimate trade and commerce. On Monday, I also had a chance to reconnect with my friend, Mayor DeMargo, the mayor of El Paso. And among other things, we talked about the importance of ensuring that our effort to create a stronger border, that in our efforts to do so, we not neglect the ports of entry. In recent months, a number of El Paso sector customs officers have been sent to other high-need areas along the U.S.-Mexico border. That's resulted in a personnel shortage that has resulted in increased wait times for both pedestrian traffic and commerce. And certainly fewer CBP agents mean a reduced vigilance in terms of screening out contraband and other things that we don't want coming into the country. The goods moving through the ports of El Paso fuel not just the local economy, as I said, but also that of the entire state of Texas, and I would argue of the nation. And I share the mayor's concerns on the harmful impact these slowdowns at the ports of entry can have. As we debate the importance of securing our borders to stop the illegal movement of people and goods, we shouldn't neglect the importance of facilitating legal movement through our ports. We need to do both. whether that means providing additional funding for infrastructure improvements, scanning technology to make sure that the ports of entry aren't exploited by putting drugs in vehicles or other places where they're hard to find, and in the absence of scanning technology, we're unable to find them, and thus the cartels win and the American people lose. But we also know we need, in addition to that technology, we need additional personnel. And I hope my colleagues will listen to the feedback that we've all gotten from the experts and these local stakeholders and take seriously the economic impact on our ports of entry as well. As I said yesterday, I look forward to reviewing the details of the funding agreement struck by the conference committee, and I hope that in addition to physical barriers where appropriate, it reflects these principles of smart border security. Because when we listen to the experts, the law enforcement officials who work on the border and in communities, that's when we are moving in the right direction, spending money in a responsible and smart way rather than just pursuing political agendas from here in Washington. Now, Mr. President, we are also going to be voting in the next, perhaps today, maybe tomorrow, on the nomination of William Barr to serve as the next Attorney General of the United States. The role of Attorney General is unique in the President's cabinet because while you're a political appointee of the President, you are also the nation's chief law enforcement officer, and obviously obligated to put your highest loyalty in upholding the rule of law. I asked Mr. Barr about this unique role during his confirmation hearing. He told me that over the years he's received a number of calls from people who were being considered for appointment to the position of Attorney General, and he told them if they wanted to pursue any kind of political future, they'd be crazy to accept the job of Attorney General. As he said, if you take this job, you have to be ready to make decisions and spend all your political capital and have no future because you have to have that freedom of action. And he assured me he's in a position now in his life where he can do what he needs to do without fear of any consequences. I was glad to hear that because I believe this is the most fundamental quality of an Attorney General. The Department of Justice must be able to operate above the political fray and prioritize the rule of law above all else. And to do that, it needs a strong and principled leader like Bill Barr, particularly on the heels of Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder's administration as Attorney General of the United States during the Obama term of office, where we know that unfortunately politics pervaded the actions not only of the Department of Justice but also the FBI in things ranging from the Hillary Clinton email investigation to the counterintelligence investigation of some of the people associated with the Trump campaign. Of course, this isn't the only reason he's the right person for the job. We know that he can faithfully execute the duties of the office because he's done it before. More than 2 decades ago, President George Herbert Walker Bush recognized the talent in this promising young attorney and nominated him to 3 increasingly important positions at the Department of Justice. For all 3 positions, Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Counsel, Deputy Attorney General, and then finally Attorney General, he was unanimously confirmed by the Senate. I would hope that he would be unanimously confirmed for Attorney General once again, but I have my doubts. After hearing Mr. Barr speak about his views of the role of the Attorney General, I have no questions as to why not a single senator opposed his nomination during those 3 previous confirmation votes. He spoke of the importance of acting with professionalism and integrity, of ensuring that the character of the Department of Justice is maintained and can withstand even the most trying political times, and of serving with independence, providing no promises or assurances to anyone on anything other than faithfully administering the rule of law. When Mr. Barr was nominated for Attorney General the first time, then Judiciary Committee Chairman Joe Biden noted that Mr. Barr, a nominee from the opposing political party, would be a, quote, fine Attorney General, close quote. Well, I agree, and I thank Mr. Barr for agreeing to once again serve his country in this critical position, and I look forward to voting yes on his nomination. I would just add, Mr. President, I am saddened by the way that the politics of the moment, the desire to defeat any legislation or oppose any nominee by this president, has led some of our colleagues across the aisle to oppose this nomination. I don't know whether it's out of fear of the most radical fringe of their political party or by their antipathy for this president, but it is regrettable. I do believe, however, that Mr. Barr will be confirmed, as he should be, as the next Attorney General of the United States, and I look forward to casting a yes vote on that nomination.